Welcome to Moving People Forward with Mark Elfstrand. This program is a series of conversations on commonly seen challenges in everyday people's lives. We hope you'll be inspired by the stories you hear today. Perhaps you know of someone who would also benefit. Be sure to share the program link with a friend. Now, here's Mark.
Professional golfers know a lot about pressure. They know that significant sums of money rest on being able to make a putt of, well, maybe only a foot or 18 inches. So imagine being a talented golfer who suddenly finds his world plagued with anxiety, panic attacks, the kind of thing that really can disrupt anybody's life. Well, you're going to hear that story from a former golf pro who's not only fought that battle, but several others along life's journey as well, and he's lived to tell about them. With me today on Moving People Forward is Andy Krajewski. Andy is the owner and operator of Wilderness Falls, a family fun center in Bolingbrook, Illinois. He's also a financial advisor and a golf pro. Andy, welcome. Good to have you
Mark.
with us.
Good to be here.
Well, let's talk about your golf life and kind of, as we say, start at the very beginning. Who taught you to play and how did you get into the game?
I got into the game kind of interesting. I came from a family. I had two older brothers and a younger sister, and we were a huge sports family. So loved to play baseball and basketball. That was our life. But we had a basketball court in our yard, and my brothers would play against me, and we'd play to 100, and they would spot me 99. And I would go home crying every single day. Yeah. And you would think I'd get a reprieve in the winter, but they would give me a shovel, and I'd go shovel the basketball court. And then they'd spot me 99, and we'd play to 100, and I would lose again. So after a while of this, I had to find a sport that my two older brothers didn't play. And golf wasn't very popular at the time, so they weren't playing it. And so I picked it up about 8th grade.
Yeah. And so are you better than they are
at
that game?
By a lot. Yeah, they won't even, so we put that to bed early. Even at the young age, I didn't go home crying anymore. That didn't happen.
So when did you figure out that it wasn't just a fun thing for you to do, but you actually could play competitively?
I didn't. So I continued baseball and basketball through at high school level. I dropped baseball to play more basketball. I really wanted to play. Every child has a dream of playing in the NBA.
Yeah, right.
But that allowed more time for golf to come in. And I think it was about senior year of high school. I remember my head basketball coach used to call me the country club basketball player because he would say I was lazy or something. So it started to take off about my senior year of high school where I was playing pretty well. Wound up getting a scholarship to play at Lewis University, and I just kept getting better every single year.
Yeah. Okay. So you were an academic All-American when you were at Lewis.
Yes.
Yeah. You're a very smart guy.
No, it didn't come easy. I remember because being in sports, it's a different life, and you're traveling all the time. Yeah. And I had difficulty studying, and I remember my freshman year, I flunked my first 2 marketing tests. And I remember sitting with her, and she said, "Andy, you're going to fail this class. The ball is in your court. Here you go. What are you going to do with it?" And so it didn't come easy. I had to learn how to study when you're on the road. Certainly how to be disciplined with your time management to get those studies in and still be able to compete at a high level. So very difficult.
Well, several years ago, though, they inducted you into the Lewis University Golf Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So you must have been one of their very best to come out of there.
That was quite an honor. Like I said, every year I got better. And Lewis University at the time had a great program. They were aggressive, and even though we were, and what I mean by aggressive is they had a lot of money, and we played a lot of Division I tournaments, even though we were a small Division II school. So I got to play against a lot of guys that went on to be great players on the PGA Tour.
Okay, but you did go on the PGA Tour yourself for a season.
Yes, I was on, after I graduated, I started to play, actually played really well on the smaller tours. Back then it was called the Hogan Tour, so it's changed its name several times, and it's the precursor to being on the PGA Tour. So I got to play on that tour a lot.
Okay, and then somewhere in those early years, something began to disrupt, as we talked about there at the opening, your golf game.
Sure.
In a very unexpected way. How did that come about?
I was in West Palm Beach at the time, and I was on the driving range, and I remember things just started spinning, and it was really weird. Didn't think much of it. Went home, just laid on the couch, and said, I must have had bad seafood last night, and that must have been it. And about a week later, I had another one that was significantly worse. And then a couple days after that, I had one. I had something happen so bad, I was in the emergency room, and nobody knew what it was. And then I found a doctor down there that said, and I was with my best friend and my girlfriend, who was now my wife. And I was with the doctor, and he said, "Are you under a lot of stress?" And I said, "No, I play golf every day and eat seafood at night and go to bed and play golf the next day." And he said, "You've suffered from panic attacks, anxiety attacks," and I'd never heard of them.
Right.
He wanted to tell my friend and my girlfriend. I was like, "No, you're not telling them that."
Yeah.
Like it just didn't seem right. And then so I came back home to Chicago, and I went through a series of tests, and it got to the point where at 23 years old, I was at my mom's house. I couldn't even get out of bed. I remember being in a fog for 3 months, and I remember counting every breath I took in a day.
Wow.
That's how bad I had gotten.
Wow. What was the final result in terms of getting you past that?
So there's a lot of changes I had to make. First of all, I had to understand what the cause was, at least for me. I thought kind of three things. One was my diet. I changed, didn't drink any more caffeine, chocolates, took all of that out of my diet.
Yeah.
Two, I started to not only pray in the morning, but I would meditate and just kind of calm me down. And the third one was really understanding what was going on in my mind. So I had a friend who had the anxiety attacks that was a doctor. And she said, "Look, I've read this book and you should read it." And I read it. I wish I knew the name. But the concept behind it was the thoughts start in your mind. And then you think something's wrong. And then you say, "Oh, no." And that's when you say, "Oh, no," that's when it happens.
Yeah.
And so those three things put together over a period of 3 months, I was able to disable that. And I actually I didn't have one until probably 30 years later when I had health problems, but I was able to fend them off and never really truly had another one.
Yeah, well, that was just the first
Yeah.
of your setbacks that you
Sadly, yes.
experienced in life. Yeah, we're going to need to take a break here in just a moment. But so then you decided to get into business, which is kind of humorous when we think back to your marketing classes that didn't work out. And yet you...
I did get a C in that class, though,
Oh,
so
that's
I came
good.
back. I did come back.
Goes to show you that even with a C in marketing, you can go on and start a successful enterprise, or 2 or 3 maybe.
Yes.
And you actually did have that experience. Well, we're going to take a time out, and then we're going to continue our discussion here in just a moment. And my guest is Andy Krajewski. Andy is a business owner. He's also now a financial advisor, and again, a former golf pro. And we'll have more coming up in just a moment.
God is our safe place and our strength. He is always our help when we are in trouble. This word of God in Psalm 46:1 says it all. God is our safe place. He is our strength. He is our help when we are in trouble. Whenever and wherever we are invited, nationally or internationally, Lutheran Church Charity's mission is to bring the mercy, compassion, presence, and proclamation of Jesus Christ to those who are suffering and in need. LCC is a ministry of presence, to be present with Jesus, to lift up people in times of joy and sorrow, in prayer, and by passing through donations of dollar per dollar to those in need. Through our canine ministries, we respond and deploy with boots on the ground and paws within 24 hours, often sooner, of any crisis or disaster situation we're invited into. You see, for us, the bottom line is making a difference by being present for people who are suffering and in need with that mercy, compassion, presence of Jesus Christ. Thank you again for allowing us the privilege to stand alongside and serve others. Jesus and your partnership make that possible to touch thousands of lives.
This is Moving People Forward. I'm Mark Elfstrand, and we're discussing how to overcome significant setbacks in life. My guest is Andy Krajewski, a business owner in Bolingbrook, Illinois, who's also a financial advisor and a former golf pro. Yeah, would you explain to me what is the difference between a pro golfer and a golf pro?
So a professional golfer is someone who needs to put a white ball in a hole in order to get a check. So he is competing on a weekly basis with golf.
Okay.
A golf professional is someone who's there to promote the game of golf, who is running junior programs, who is running a golf course. And so generally the golf professional you'll see at a golf course or running the whole operation, where a professional golfer is out there playing.
All right.
So
well, you have so
different.
many things to talk about in your story. This is going to be tough to condense all this, but you did go on to become a golf pro at it's a pretty impressive golf facility,
Sure.
and to actually put together a business plan which was significant. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I went on into the golf business, and I wound up, I think I was at the golf course for about 6 years, and they were going bankrupt, and they called me in and said, hey, look, we don't have enough money to pay you. It was my 1 month paid vacation. And I literally had my kids in the car and my wife in the car. We were going to Disney World. I had 2 boys at the time. And so I was devastated. I got home and I had no idea, what we were going to do. We didn't go to Disney World. So, the kids obviously were upset, but I was scared beyond all belief. And, here I was, this golf pro in January. There's no jobs out there, and I was on unemployment. And I was thankful on unemployment. They pay you a little bit more money for every child you have, so I had 2. And I started to think about what was I going to do, and the Lord laid on my heart to build something. And I actually wrote a business plan, and I decided to do a family entertainment facility, but I had no job, I had no money, and so I had to go out and find somebody to believe in what I wanted to do. And Pastor John Bell helped me out a lot. We did a planning arrow, and we planned the whole thing out. And I found a piece of land in Bolingbrook that I was going to build on. And I didn't know much about real estate, and I was very naive to these things. And they said, listen, here's the deal. We're going to give you 5 months to close, and you need to put $50,000 down on the land in order to make this work.
And you had no job.
Had no job.
Yeah.
And no money in my savings, no money in my checking.
Yeah.
And so, I was going to do this several $1 million project. And I actually believed in it so much, I was offered a very good job at the time at a very prestigious golf course, and I turned it down. That's how much faith I had that this plan was going to work.
Wow.
And so I took the business plan. I knew a lot of people, and I just went from person to person, and everybody kept saying no, 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 no. And we were invading Iraq for the first time, and so a lot of people were scared with their money. We didn't know whether we were going to uncover nukes or what was going to happen. So I got a lot of doors, all slammed saying no. And so I remember the 5 months had run up, and Monday was the day I was supposed to close on the land, and it was the Thursday prior, and I still had $0 to buy the land. And I remember Thursday night going on my knees in my son's room. I don't remember what I prayed, but I remember coming out of his room thinking everything was going to be okay. And on Friday morning, $10,000 came into my checking account, and then another 100,000 came in, and another 100,000 came in, and another. And by the close of Friday, I thankfully had enough to buy the land on Monday. And then Wilderness Falls wound up being built in Bolingbrook, Illinois.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. You also then went on to actually go to work at a golf course while this was all happening as well.
Yes.
And to develop a business plan to really remarkably change the look of that course.
I did. Right as it was really a blessing that right after I built the facility, the place that went bankrupt had a new owner. And he called me up, and he was a great guy. We hit it off, and he put me in charge of the whole facility. And I had lost my dad at a young age, and this gentleman was kind of like that father figure to me. So we had a great relationship. I was there for about 5 years, and we decided to do a renovation project of, I think we spent about 15 million. And having been in the business a long time, I got my own canvas, so to speak, to paint whatever I wanted. And I got to build a beautiful learning center, redid the golf course, and it was an incredible experience for me.
Okay, but there's something about this that is a good lesson for people who are watching what we're talking about here or listening, and that is that you should have gotten the credit for everything that happened, and instead somebody else got the credit. As trades began to publicize this.
Sure, I don't think I should have gotten all the credit. There's certainly a team there. There's certainly everybody was involved, but was it my vision and was it some keystrokes? Certainly, but that was some learning lessons in life for me, and that was a God thing where 1 week before this was going to open to the public, and there's an ego that goes with it. I had 15 million of somebody else's money, and I got to build something that I was very passionate about.
Yeah.
And a week before it was going to open to the public, the owner and I had parted ways, and it was devastating. It was devastating to me. It was devastating to my family, and but it was a great lesson for me about where I build up my riches, and this whole everything I had done. I watched how fast it could vanish.
Yeah, and also probably about forgiveness.
Oh yeah, that was a long that was a long road.
Yeah, all right.
That was a long road.
We only have a couple of minutes left. I don't want to shortchange your health journey because this would be a major setback for a lot of people.
Sure.
And that came almost out of nowhere as well.
Right after I had lost the job, the following year, I went in for what I thought was a flu, and it turned out to be endocarditis. I had bacteria on my heart, and it has a high mortality rate, especially if it goes misdiagnosed. And they had told me I had mono, so I actually was home for 2 or 3 weeks with this disease.
Wow.
And I wound up going to get a second opinion. The doctor took one listen to my heart and rushed me immediately to the heart hospital at Edwards Hospital. And that's when they found out what I had. My heart actually was beating 175 beats per minute at rest.
Wow.
And so my buddy said only I could learn how to exercise while I was resting. And so they said, hey, look, we're just going to shoot you up with antibiotics. After 5 weeks, you're going to be fine. 5 weeks go by, and I'm not fine. They call me and say, look, you need immediate open heart surgery. You don't have time for a second opinion. We need you in here now. And so I went to see Dr. Foy at Edwards. He turned out to be a Christian. And he found out I was a Christian. He said, Andy, I want you to memorize Isaiah 43, 1 and 2 before the surgery. And so I'm like, okay, you got it. I don't even know what it is. Yeah. But so I went back and I read it and I memorized it, and we had the surgery. And it was, I came out of it. It was extremely painful because I was so young. And what had happened 10 days later was I had a bacterial infection and I needed another surgery, just a small one. And they said they'd give me pills to protect my heart and everything would be fine. So I go in there and I wasn't feeling very well. I was there at 9 a.m. and I remember it was about 11 o'clock and I looked at the nurse and I said, hey, can I leave? And the nurse was like, well, leave? Why would you leave? And I said, I don't know. I said, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to pray about it and I'll let you know. And she gave me this like weird look. Yeah. And I just said a prayer of wisdom, for wisdom and for strength. And about 5 minutes later, I had an overwhelming urge to get up and leave. And I looked at my wife, I said, we're going. And the nurse saw me and she went and got the operating room doctor out of the operating room. And he came in, he says, you can't leave. You have bacteria in your body. If it gets to your heart, you're not going to make it.
Right.
And I said, I'm telling you, I'm leaving. And so I get in the car, I'm driving home, and I'm probably home for about 2 hours. And I get rushed back to the emergency room. I had 2 pulmonary embolisms. If I would have had the surgery, I would have died on the table. Wow. And so I wound up struggling with my health probably for about 2 years after that.
Yeah. Well, it's a remarkable story.
Yeah.
We're out of time, but you went on to now become a financial advisor.
Yes.
You're working with athletes and so forth.
Yes.
So just to wrap up, your faith has played a major role in your life, along life's journey. And it has helped you overcome all these obstacles, and I'm sure influences the way you do business still today.
Absolutely.
And God has blessed you in a lot of ways, and you've got a story to tell. If people would like to check out a website, either for your golf, your family fun center, or for your business, what website would they?
Sure. So our family fun center is wildernessfalls.com, and where I'm a financial advisor is at arborfinancialservices.com.
Okay. Arbor Financial Services.
Yes, that's right out of Downers Grove.
All right, Andy. Well, you.
Thanks, Mark. I really enjoyed it.
You've had an unusual journey in life, and thanks for being willing to share some of those details with us today.
Thank you.
Well, that is going to wrap up our program for this time. As the sages have told us, grow in wisdom, think humbly of yourself, and love one another. And may it be so with you. Join me next time for more of Moving People Forward. I'm Mark Elfstrand.